Hello there, and welcome to this Sleepy Botanica, a quiet place where nothing is required of you, and where, for a little while, you can simply rest. Tonight, we begin with a small idea, one that sounds almost too simple to matter, and yet quietly challenges everything we think we know about growing food. There are plants, real, measurable, studied plants, that you only need to plant once. Not once per season, not once per year, but once, and then they return again and again and again, without replanting, without buying new seeds, without asking for permission. And for a long time, that idea made scientists curious, but it made systems uncomfortable, because a crop that continues on its own is not just a biological phenomenon, it is a disruption. In modern agriculture, most of the food we rely on is built around a cycle. Plant, grow, harvest, clear, and repeat. This cycle is not accidental. It is structured, optimized, and deeply studied. Annual crops like wheat, corn, and rice, which together provide over half of the world's caloric intake, complete their entire life cycle in a single growing season. They are predictable. They are uniform. They can be harvested by machines, stored for months, and transported across continents. But they also depend on constant input. Seeds must be replanted. Soil must be tilled. Nutrients must be replaced. Every year, the process begins again. And then there are the others. Perennial plants. Plants that do not die after harvest, but instead remain alive beneath the surface, storing energy in roots, rhizomes, or tubers, waiting quietly for the next season to begin. From a biological perspective, this is not unusual. In fact, over 90% of plant species on Earth are perennial. They dominate natural ecosystems, forests, grasslands, wetlands, places where stability is not enforced, but emerges. And yet, in agriculture, perennials are the exception. Why? Part of the answer is practical. Perennial crops often produce less uniform yields. They may mature at different times. They can be harder to harvest mechanically. Their edible parts are sometimes irregular, hidden underground, or difficult to store. But another part of the answer is quieter and less often discussed. Perennials reduce the need to intervene. They reduce the need to replant, to purchase inputs, to reset the system each year. And that changes the relationship between people, land, and time. Because when something continues on its own, it asks less from us, and perhaps it gives more than we expect. There are documented perennial crops studied across North America, Europe, and Asia that can remain productive for years, even decades, after a single planting. Their yields, in some cases, rival annual crops, especially in marginal soils or under environmental stress. They tolerate cold, drought, and poor nutrients, conditions that would reduce or destroy many conventional harvests. And beneath the surface, they are always there, even when the field looks empty, even when winter has covered everything in frost. There is life waiting, not dormant as absence, but dormant as preparation. Energy stored in complex carbohydrates, inulin, starches, structural sugars, held within roots that do not forget. And when conditions return, they do not need to start over. They simply continue. So tonight, as you begin to slow down, you might imagine a field not of rows and schedules, but of quiet persistence. A place where nothing is rushed, where growth does not depend on constant renewal, but on continuity, where beneath the soil Systems exist that do not announce themselves, do not demand attention, and do not disappear when ignored. They remain. And as you listen, you may begin to notice something subtle. That the idea of plant one's harvest for years is not just about agriculture. It is about a different rhythm, a slower one, a deeper one that does not begin and end so abruptly, but instead carries forward gently from one season into the next. And for now, you do not need to analyze it or fully understand it. You can simply let the thoughts settle, like a seed placed quietly into soft soil, with no urgency, no expectation, just the quiet possibility that some things, once begun, never truly stop growing. There is something else that breaks the pattern, and you may not have noticed it yet. Most systems we live inside are built on repetition with effort. You must begin again, and again. But in living systems, especially perennial ones, repetition happens without restarting. Growth continues, even when nothing appears to be happening. And as you think about that, just for a moment, you might begin to notice your breath. Not to control it, not to change it too quickly, just to notice the way it comes in gently, and the way it leaves just as quietly. Take a slightly deeper breath now, if it feels comfortable. Let the air move in slowly, filling your chest, your ribs, even the lower part of your lungs. Then let it fall out of you without force, come without effort. Again, breathing in, slow and steady, and breathing out a little longer this time. In physiology, this simple shift, a longer exhale than inhale, activates what is called the parasympathetic nervous system. It is sometimes referred to as the rest and digest state. Heart rate slows, muscles soften, the body begins to conserve energy instead of spending it. You do not have to remember the term. Your body already knows how to do this. Breathing in again, quietly, and out just a little slower. As the breath settles, you may begin to notice small changes. The weight of your shoulders, the position of your jaw, the way your eyes rest in their sockets. Let your shoulders drop, even slightly. Let your tongue rest gently, away from the roof of your mouth. These are small adjustments, but they signal something important to your nervous system. They signal safety, and safety changes everything. In plants, there is no nervous system in the way humans understand it, but there are signaling networks, chemical pathways that respond to stress, to light, to temperature, to damage. When conditions are stable, energy is directed toward growth. When conditions are harsh, energy is conserved. In your body, something similar is happening. Right now, as you slow your breathing, you are shifting from action to restoration. Breathing in, soft and quiet. Breathing out, longer, heavier. Imagine now that you are lying in a field, not working in it, not harvesting, just resting there. The ground beneath you is steady, slightly cool, holding your weight without resistance. Beneath that ground, roots are moving slowly, or not quickly enough to be seen, not dramatically enough to be noticed, but constantly, persistently. They are extending through the soil, following gradients of moisture, responding to tiny differences in nutrients. This process is measurable. Root systems can expand centimeters each day under favorable conditions, even when the surface appears still. And you, above the ground, are doing something similar. Your breath moving in slow cycles, your body adjusting in small, almost invisible ways. Take another breath in, letting it arrive naturally, and release it, allowing your body to sink a little deeper. There is no urgency here, no task to complete, no outcome to reach, just a gradual shift. In neuroscience, repeated slow breathing has been shown to reduce activity in the amygdala, the region associated with fear and alertness, while increasing activity in areas linked to calm focus and internal awareness. But again, you do not need to think about the structures. You can simply feel the effect. Your chest rising gently, falling even more slowly. And as this rhythm continues, you may begin to feel a subtle sense of continuity, the same kind that exists in perennial systems. Not starting over, not stopping, just continuing. Breath after breath, cycle after cycle. And if your thoughts begin to wander, that is perfectly fine. Thoughts are like surface weather. They move quickly, they change shape, they come and go. But underneath, there is something slower, a steady process, like roots beneath the soil, like energy stored quietly, waiting without effort. Take one more slow breath in and let it go, fully, gently. You may notice now that your body feels slightly heavier, or perhaps lighter, or simply more settled. There is nothing you need to adjust. You are already moving in the right direction. And from here, without forcing anything, without changing pace, we can begin to move a little deeper, not upward into activity, but inward, into a space where imagination and biology begin to overlap. A place where the field is no longer something you observe, but something you are gently drifting into. There is a moment, not always obvious, when observation becomes immersion. You are no longer just imagining the field. You are beginning to feel as though you are inside it. And this shift is natural. The human brain, particularly regions like the visual cortex and the default mode network, responds to imagery almost as if it were real experience. When you imagine a place in enough detail, your body begins to follow. So now, without effort, let the field become clearer. You are lying on the allard, or perhaps just beside it, close enough to feel its presence. The soil is not cold, not warm, but balanced, holding a steady temperature the way Earth tends to do a few inches below the surface. Above you, the air moves slowly. Not wind exactly, just a gentle motion, enough to shift leaves, enough to carry the faint scent of green growth and distant moisture. This is not a cultivated field in straight lines. There are no rigid rows, no mechanical patterns. Instead, it is layered. Tall stems rise unevenly, some reaching higher than others, their leaves angled to catch the last traces of light. Lower plants fill the gaps, and beneath all of it, unseen but active, the root systems extend in every direction. Perennial systems often form what scientists describe as interconnected networks. Roots do not simply grow downward, they spread outward, sometimes meters away from the original plant, creating dense underground structures that store energy and share resources. And here, in this field, those networks are alive. You do not see them directly, but you can sense their presence. A quiet complexity, a system that does not rush, does not compete in obvious ways, but instead stabilizes itself over time. You take a slow breath in, and the air feels slightly richer here. Not thicker, just more grounded. And as you breathe out, your body settles further into the surface beneath you. Time begins to stretch. In ecological systems, time does not move in the same way it does in human schedules. Its growth is measured in cycles, in seasons, in returns. A perennial plant may appear to disappear during winter, its visible structure gone, but its life is not interrupted. It continues below, metabolically active at low levels, preserving what it has gathered. And then, when conditions shift, it rises again. You begin to notice the rhythm of this place. Nothing begins abruptly. Nothing ends completely. It all continues. Somewhere nearby, a stem sways, slowly enough that you almost miss it. Leaves shift, creating a soft, irregular pattern of movement. There is no single direction. Everything adjusts in response to everything else. This is how stable ecosystems behave, not through control, but through balance. And as you remain here, breathing slowly, your own system begins to align with that pattern, and your breath is no longer something you are thinking about. It is simply happening. In and out, in and out. Your body, like the field, is not restarting with each cycle. It is continuing. And somewhere beneath you, roots extend just a little further, unnoticed, persistent, growth without urgency, movement without noise. And you, resting above it all, begin to drift, not away, but deeper into the quiet continuity of this place. There is a layer beneath everything you see, and it holds more than just structure. It holds memory. Not memory in the way humans remember events, but biological memory, encoded in form, in chemistry, in the way a plant responds to the world. Beneath the surface, roots and tubers store energy in complex molecules. In many perennial species, this energy is stored as inulin, on a type of carbohydrate that does not behave like simple sugars. It does not spike quickly. It remains stable, slow to break down, reserved. This is not accidental. It is a strategy. Inulin allows plants to survive periods when photosynthesis is not possible, during cold, drought, or darkness. It is a form of long-term storage, a way of carrying the past into the future. And here, in this field, the storage is everywhere. You imagine the soil just below you, not as empty space, but as a dense, living matrix. Fine root hairs, thicker rhizomes, clusters of tubers, all layered together, each holding fragments of energy gathered from previous seasons. Nothing is wasted. When a leaf falls above, it decomposes, returning nutrients to the soil. Microorganisms break it down, converting complex matter into forms that roots can absorb again. And this cycle is continuous, closed, but not stagnant. In soil science, this is often described as a dynamic equilibrium, where inputs and outputs are balanced over time. Systems like this can remain productive for years without external intervention. And as you rest here, you are surrounded by that equilibrium. You may begin to feel a subtle sense of support, not just the alard beneath your body, but the idea that beneath that there is structure, continuity, and stored potential. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, imagine your body releasing any remaining tension downward into that network. There is no need to hold anything tightly here. The ground does not resist, it receives. In human physiology, there is a similar concept. The body stores energy, not just in immediate forms like glucose, but in longer-term reserves. And when the body feels safe, it allows those reserves to be used for repair, for restoration. Right now, in this quiet state, your body is not preparing for action. It is shifting toward maintenance, repairing small imbalances, regulating internal systems, returning to baseline. And beneath you, the plants are doing something similar, not growing rapidly, not competing for dominance, but maintaining, stabilizing, preparing. This is a different kind of strength, not visible, not dramatic, but enduring. You might imagine one of those roots, thick and quiet, holding within it the energy of many seasons. Sunlight captured months ago, transformed, stored, and waiting. Waiting without impatience. Waiting without stress. And as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same quality within yourself. A sense that not everything needs to happen now, that some processes are allowed to take time, that some forms of growth are invisible and still completely real. The field does not rush, the roots do not rush, and neither do you. You are simply here, supported by layers you cannot fully see but can quietly trust as everything beneath the surface continues, steady and uninterrupted. There is a tendency, when we think about growth, to imagine something visible, something that rises, expands, or reveals itself clearly over time. But most of the real work in living systems happens in places we do not see, and often at speeds we do not immediately recognize. Beneath the surface of this quiet field, the root systems are not isolated structures. They are part of a network, and in many ecosystems, these networks are interconnected through what scientists call mycorrhizal associations, a symbiotic relationship between plant roots and fungi that allows for the exchange of nutrients, water, and even chemical signals across distances that can span entire landscapes. This is sometimes referred to informally as the Wood Wide Web, but the reality is more subtle and far more ancient, as these systems have existed for hundreds of millions of years, long before human agriculture, long before organized cultivation, long before the idea of ownership was ever applied to land. In this field, those connections are present, invisible but active, forming pathways through which resources move, not randomly, but in response to need, availability, and environmental conditions, creating a kind of distributed intelligence that does not belong to any single organism, but emerges from the relationships between them. And as you rest here, breathing slowly, you might begin to sense that nothing beneath you is truly separate, that each root, each filament, each microscopic exchange is part of a larger continuity that does not depend on speed or urgency. Take a slow breath in, allowing your chest to rise gently, and then release it longer, softer, as though you are aligning with that same network, not controlling it, not influencing it, just noticing its quiet persistence. In ecological studies, these underground systems have been shown to redistribute nutrients from areas of abundance to areas of scarcity, supporting younger or weaker plants, stabilizing entire communities without any central control. And this kind of balance is not enforced. It is maintained through constant, low-level interaction. There is no single moment where the system begins or ends. It simply continues, adjusting in small increments, responding to changes that are often too subtle to observe directly. And in your own body, something similar is happening now. As your breathing slows, your heart rate adjusts, your nervous system shifts toward regulation. Small processes begin to rebalance themselves, not dramatically, but steadily. There is no need to monitor it, no need to measure it, because these systems, both in the field and within you, are designed to function without constant oversight. You may notice your body feeling heavier now, or perhaps more supported. as though the surface beneath you is not just holding your weight, but gently receiving it, allowing you to let go of the effort you may not have realized you were carrying. The field does not demand attention, and neither does your breath. Both continue whether you focus on them or not, and that continuity is where stability begins. In this place, growth is not a sudden event. It is a slow accumulation, a quiet extension, a network forming over time without announcement, without interruption. And as you remain here, you may begin to feel less like an observer and more like a participant in that stillness, not separate from it, but resting within it as everything continues, quietly, beneath the surface. Time, in most human systems, is divided, measured, segmented into units that move forward in a straight line. But in living systems, especially those rooted in perennial cycles, time behaves differently. It folds, it overlaps, till it returns. In this field, there is no clear beginning and no defined end, only phases, transitions, periods of activity and periods of rest, all part of a continuous process that does not reset, but carries forward what came before. Perennial plants do not start from zero each season. They begin with stored energy, with established roots, with a history embedded in their structure, and this allows them to grow earlier, persist longer, and adapt more efficiently to changing conditions. This is not just a poetic idea. It is measurable, as studies have shown that perennial systems often require less energy input over time, while maintaining stable or even increasing productivity, particularly in environments where annual crops struggle. And as you lie here, breathing slowly, you are experiencing a similar shift, moving away from the idea of starting over and into the experience of continuing. Take a slow breath in and then let it go, noticing how the exhale naturally extends, how it does not need to be forced, how it simply completes itself. Your body is not restarting with each breath. It is building on the previous one, maintaining a rhythm that is continuous, not segmented. In neuroscience, this kind of steady rhythm is associated with a shift towards slower brainwave patterns, often described as alpha and theta states, which are linked to relaxation, creativity, and the early stages of sleep. You do not need to track these changes, but you may begin to feel them, a softening of thought, a widening of awareness, a sense that time is becoming less rigid, less defined. The field around you reflects this same quality, as nothing here is rushing toward a deadline. Nothing is trying to complete itself within a fixed interval. Growth happens when conditions allow, and pauses when they do not, without stress, without resistance. You might imagine the roots beneath you continuing their slow expansion, not in a straight line, not toward a fixed endpoint, but outward, adapting, responding, adjusting. There is no urgency in their movement, and yet, over time, they cover vast areas, creating stability through persistence rather than speed. And as you continue to breathe, you may begin to feel that same absence of urgency within yourself, a sense that there is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do, no pace you need to match. Your breath moves in and out, steady and unforced. Your body rests, supported and still. And time, for now, is no longer something you are moving through, but something that is gently unfolding around you, without pressure, without demand. In this space, Continuation replaces repetition, and presence replaces urgency, and you are simply here, within it, as everything, both within you and beneath the soil, continues in its own quiet way. There is a specific kind of plant that embodies everything you have been sensing, a plant that does not announce itself loudly, yet persists with remarkable consistency, one that has been studied across continents, climates, and centuries, and continues to challenge the assumptions of modern agriculture. It grows tall, often higher than a person, with stems that sway gently and flowers that follow the movement of the sun. But what matters most is not what you see above the ground, it is what remains below. And this plant stores its energy in underground structures known as tubers, swollen sections of root that act as reservoirs, holding carbohydrates, minerals, and water, allowing it to survive conditions that would stop most annual crops entirely. One of the key compounds stored within these tubers is inulin, a type of soluble fiber that behaves differently from starch, as it is not rapidly broken down into glucose, but instead passes through the digestive system more slowly, supporting beneficial gut bacteria and contributing to long-term metabolic balance. From a biological perspective, this storage strategy is highly efficient, as it allows the plant to retain energy from one season to the next, eliminating the need to regenerate from seed each year. And because of this, when the visible plant dies back in colder months, if the organism itself does not end, it remains intact, waiting beneath the soil, insulated from temperature extremes, protected from surface disturbances. When conditions improve, it does not begin again, it resumes. This distinction is important because resuming requires less energy than restarting, and over time, that difference accumulates. Studies comparing perennial tuber crops to annual staples have shown that under certain conditions, these plants can produce comparable yields with fewer inputs, particularly in marginal soils or climates where conventional crops require irrigation, fertilizers, or repeated planting. And as you rest here, breathing slowly, you may begin to feel the significance of that. Take a gentle breath in and let it move through your body without interruption, and then release it, allowing the exhale to lengthen naturally. Your body, like this plant, is not starting from nothing. It carries memory, not just in thought, but in tissue, in patterns, in the way your systems regulate themselves without conscious effort. Every breath builds on the one before it. Every moment of rest supports the next. You are not beginning again, you are continuing. And beneath you, the plant does the same. Its roots remain steady, its stored energy intact, its structure preserved even when it is not visible. There is no urgency in its return, no pressure to perform, only the quiet certainty that when the time is right, growth will emerge again. You might imagine one of these tubers now, resting in the soil, surrounded by darkness, yet filled with potential, holding within it the resources gathered from sunlight months ago. And it does not question when it will grow. It does not rush toward the surface. It simply remains stable and prepared. And as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel a similar sense of readiness within yourself. Not a readiness to act, but a readiness to rest, to allow processes to unfold without interference. Because not everything needs to be visible to be real. Not everything needs to be active to be alive. Some of the most important processes are the ones that continue quietly beneath the surface, without drawing attention, without requiring effort. And here, in this field, you are surrounded by that kind of continuity, steady, reliable, and unhurried. Resilience is often misunderstood as something dramatic, something that appears in moments of crisis. But in ecological systems, resilience is usually quiet, built slowly over time through structures that are not easily disrupted. Perennial plants, especially those with deep or spreading root systems, are among the most resilient forms of life in agriculture, not because they grow quickly, but because they persist. They tolerate fluctuations in temperature, variations in rainfall, and changes in soil composition, not by resisting these changes forcefully, but by adapting to them gradually. Their roots extend deeper than many annual crops, allowing them to access water stored far below the surface, and their stored energy reserves provide a buffer during periods when photosynthesis is limited. In some species, these roots can reach depths of several meters, penetrating compacted soil layers, improving aeration, and creating pathways for water infiltration, processes that contribute to long-term soil health. This is not just beneficial for the plant itself, but for the entire ecosystem, as improved soil structure supports microbial life, nutrient cycling, and the stability of surrounding vegetation. And as you lie here, breathing slowly, you may begin to sense that resilience is not about force, but about continuity. Take a slow breath in, feeling the air move gently into your lungs, and then let it go, allowing your body to soften further into the ground. There is no need to hold tension, no need to anticipate. Your body, like these plants, is capable of adapting, of regulating, of maintaining balance without constant intervention. In physiology, systems that are allowed to operate without excessive stress tend to become more stable over time, as regulatory processes are not interrupted by constant activation. This is why rest is not simply the absence of activity, but an active state of restoration. And here, in this quiet field, restoration is happening everywhere. Roots continue to adjust their growth patterns. Microorganisms break down organic matter. Nutrients move through the soil in slow, continuous cycles. Nothing is static, but nothing is rushed. You might imagine the field during a season of difficulty, perhaps a period of drought, where the surface becomes dry and brittle, where many annual plants would struggle or fail, and yet, beneath that surface, the perennial roots remain. They draw from deeper reserves. They conserve what they have. They endure. And when the conditions change, when moisture returns, when temperatures stabilize, they respond, not from nothing, but from continuity. They resume growth with the advantage of what they have already built. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same sense of quiet resilience within yourself, not as something you need to create, but as something that is already present. Your body has systems that restore, regulate, and maintain balance, even when you are not aware of them. Your breath continues, your heart continues, your internal processes adjust and respond without needing your attention. And in this moment, you are allowing those processes to unfold without interruption. There is nothing you need to fix, nothing you need to accelerate, only the gentle experience of being supported, both by the ground beneath you and by the systems within you as everything continues quietly and steadily in its own time. There are systems in nature that do not require constant input, and this idea, while simple on the surface, carries deep implications when observed closely through the lens of ecology and agricultural science. In most modern farming systems, fertility is maintained through external additions, synthetic fertilizers, compost inputs, or rotational strategies designed to replenish nutrients removed during harvest. But in perennial systems, a significant portion of this process happens internally. Plants shed leaves, stems, and organic material that fall back to the soil, where they are decomposed by microorganisms, fungi, and invertebrates, gradually transforming into forms that can be reabsorbed by roots. This process is known as nutrient cycling, and in stable ecosystems, it can sustain productivity for long periods without external intervention. The field you are resting in follows this pattern. Above the surface, growth appears seasonal, stems rise, leaves expand, flowers open and fade, but below the surface, the cycle continues without interruption. Organic matter accumulates, breaks down, and returns. Energy is not lost, it is transformed. Take a slow breath in, allowing the air to move gently through your body, and then release it, feeling the subtle shift as your body settles further into stillness. You may begin to notice that nothing here feels depleted. Nothing feels exhausted. Even in moments of rest, processes continue. In soil ecology, this ongoing activity is driven by an immense diversity of life. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and small organisms that interact in complex ways, each contributing to the breakdown and redistribution of nutrients. A single gram of healthy soil can contain billions of microorganisms, forming one of the most densely populated ecosystems on Earth. And yet, this activity is silent, invisible, continuous. The field does not need to be reset each season because it does not operate on a system of depletion and replacement. It operates on continuity. And as you lie here, breathing slowly, you may begin to feel that same sense of internal balance. Your body too is engaged in constant cycles. Cells are repaired. Proteins are synthesized. Waste is processed and removed. Even at rest, your body is active in ways that do not require your awareness. Take another gentle breath in and let it go longer this time, allowing your muscles to soften, your weight to settle more completely. There is nothing you need to add, nothing you need to correct. Like the field, your system is capable of maintaining itself when given the space to do so. You might imagine the soil beneath you becoming richer over time, not through sudden changes, but through accumulation, layer upon layer of organic matter, each season contributing to the next. This is how stability forms, not through rapid input, but through sustained cycles. And as you continue to rest, you may begin to feel that same layering within yourself, each breath building on the last, each moment of stillness adding to a deeper sense of calm. Nothing is wasted, nothing is rushed. Everything is part of a continuous process, unfolding quietly, steadily, without interruption. There is a subtle tension between systems that sustain themselves and systems that are designed to be controlled. And this tension becomes more visible when we compare perennial ecosystems to modern agricultural models. In controlled systems, uniformity is often prioritized. Crops are selected for consistent size, synchronized maturation, and compatibility with mechanized harvesting. And these characteristics allow for efficiency at scale. Fields are organized into rows, inputs are measured and applied precisely, and outcomes are predicted based on known variables. This approach has produced remarkable yields, feeding billions of people across the globe, but it also depends on constant management. Without intervention, these systems tend to lose stability. Weeds emerge, soil degrades, nutrient levels shift, and the balance must be restored through additional input. Perennial systems operate differently. They are less uniform, less predictable, but more stable over time. They do not require the same level of intervention because they are not reset each cycle. They continue. Take a slow breath in, and as you do, notice the absence of pressure in this space. There are no straight lines here, no schedules to follow, no outcomes being measured. And yet, the field is not chaotic. It is organized in a different way, through relationships rather than control. In ecological research, systems with higher biodiversity tend to exhibit greater resilience as multiple species perform overlapping functions, allowing the system to adapt when conditions change. This redundancy is not inefficient, it is stabilizing. And in this field, that stability is present. Plants grow at different heights. Roots extend in different directions. Microorganisms interact in complex networks. Nothing is identical, but everything contributes. As you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel a release of the need to control. There is no requirement to manage your thoughts, no need to direct your breathing, no expectation to achieve a particular state. Your body is capable of regulating itself. Your breath is capable of finding its own rhythm. Take another gentle breath in and let it fall out of you, longer, softer. You may notice that the more you allow, the more your system settles. This is not a loss of control, but a shift away from unnecessary control. In the same way that perennial systems reduce the need for constant intervention, your body, when given the opportunity, moves toward balance on its own. You might imagine a cultivated field, carefully managed, every element controlled, every outcome predicted, and then imagine this field where growth emerges without strict direction, where stability arises from interaction rather than enforcement. Both systems produce results, but they feel different. One requires constant attention, the other continues quietly. And as you rest here, you are experiencing that second kind of system, one that does not demand, does not rush, does not reset. It simply continues. Your breath moves in, your breath moves out. And without effort, without control, your body settles deeper into that continuity, supported by a system that does not need to be forced, only allowed. There is a kind of memory that does not rely on thought, and a form of continuity that is not stored in words or images, but in structure, in chemistry, and in the quiet persistence of living systems over time. In perennial plants, this memory is embedded in their roots, in the way they respond to changing conditions based on what has come before, a process sometimes described in plant physiology as stress memory, where previous exposure to drought, cold, or nutrient limitation alters how the plant reacts in future cycles. This is not memory as humans experience it, but it is measurable, as certain gene expressions remain primed, certain pathways more responsive. allowing the plant to adapt more efficiently over time. And beneath the surface of this field, that kind of memory exists everywhere. Roots that have extended through compacted soil remember pathways of least resistance. Acatubas that have stored energy remember abundance from previous seasons. The entire system carries forward what it has learned, not consciously, but functionally. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it, noticing how your body does not return to exactly the same state as before, but shifts, even slightly, building on the previous breath. Your body holds memory too, not just in your thoughts, but in your muscles, your nervous system, your patterns of response. Repeated experiences shape how your system reacts, how it regulates, how it restores. And right now, as you rest, you are creating a new pattern, one of slowing down, of allowing, of continuity without pressure. You might imagine the field moving through seasons, not abruptly but gradually, as light changes, temperature shifts, moisture levels adjust. The plants do not reset when winter arrives, they transition. Above the ground, growth recedes. Below the ground, processes continue. Metabolism slows, but does not stop. Energy remains stored, preserved, ready. And when spring returns, the field does not begin from nothing. It resumes. This is the advantage of continuity, not needing to start over, not losing everything between cycles. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same sense of continuity within yourself, a recognition that rest is not an interruption, but a continuation of another kind of activity. Your body is not pausing, it is recalibrating, repairing, preparing. Take another gentle breath in and let it go longer this time, allowing your body to settle even more deeply. There is no need to hold on to anything tightly. The system remembers how to function. The field remembers how to grow. And you, in this moment, are part of that same quiet continuity, moving through cycles without needing to restart. There is a moment, subtle and often unnoticed, when understanding shifts from observation into something deeper, not a sudden realization, but a quiet recognition that changes how you perceive what is already there. In this field, that moment does not arrive with intensity. It emerges slowly. You begin to see that what seemed unusual, a plant that returns without replanting, a system that sustains itself, is not an exception, but a reflection of how most natural systems operate when left undisturbed. The idea that abundance requires constant input begins to soften. The assumption that control is necessary for stability begins to loosen, and in its place, something quieter appears, a recognition that continuity can be enough. In ecological terms, this aligns with the concept of self-organizing systems, where order arises from local interactions rather than external control, where stability is not imposed, but emerges from the relationships within the system. These systems are not perfect. They fluctuate, they adapt, but they persist. And that persistence is a form of resilience that does not depend on constant correction. Take a slow breath in, allowing the air to move gently through you, and then release it, feeling the subtle shift as your body softens further. You may notice now that your breathing requires less attention. It continues on its own. Your body feels heavier, or perhaps more supported, your thoughts move more slowly or drift more easily. This is not something you are doing. It is something that is happening. In neuroscience, this shift corresponds to a decrease in active, goal-directed thinking and an increase in internally oriented awareness, a state where the mind becomes less focused on control and more receptive to experience. And here, in this field, that same shift is reflected in everything around you. Nothing is forcing itself to grow. Nothing is striving to reach a fixed outcome. The plants extend, the roots spread, the cycles continue, not because they are directed to do so, but because that is their nature. You might imagine the entire field as a single, continuous process. Rather than a collection of separate parts, each element contributing to the whole without needing to dominate it. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel yourself as part of that process, not separate from it, not observing it from a distance, but resting within it. There is no boundary that needs to be maintained, no distinction that needs to be enforced, just a gradual blending of awareness, where the field, the breath, and the body all move within the same quiet rhythm. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing the exhale to extend naturally. There's nothing you need to reach, nothing you need to achieve. Only the quiet recognition that some systems, both in nature and within yourself, are capable of continuing, of sustaining, of restoring, without constant effort. And in that recognition, there is a kind of calm, a soft understanding that does not demand attention, but remains steady and present as everything continues to unfold in its own time. There is a form of abundance that does not announce itself, one that does not arrive suddenly or overwhelm the senses, but instead builds quietly, layer by layer, until it becomes stable enough to sustain itself without constant reinforcement. In ecological systems, this kind of abundance is often the result of long-term balance, where energy flows efficiently, resources are reused, and losses are minimized through continuous cycles rather than repeated inputs. Perennial plants contribute to this process by maintaining living roots year-round, which stabilize soil structure, reduce erosion, and support microbial communities that enhance nutrient availability over time. Unlike annual systems, where soil is frequently disturbed through tilling, perennial systems allow for the gradual accumulation of organic matter, increasing what scientists refer to as soil carbon content, an important factor in both fertility and long-term environmental stability. And in this field, that abundance is present, not as something overwhelming, but as something steady. You may not see it immediately. You may not feel it all at once, but it is there, in the continuity of growth, in the quiet persistence of roots, in the ongoing cycles that do not depend on interruption. Take a slow breath in, allowing the air to move gently through your body, and then release it, longer, softer, noticing how your body continues to settle. Abundance, in this context, is not excess. It is sufficiency sustained over time. The field does not produce everything at once. It produces consistently, season after season, cycle after cycle, without exhausting itself. And as you lie here, breathing slowly, you may begin to feel that same sense of sufficiency within yourself. There's enough air in each breath, enough support beneath your body, enough time in this moment. Nothing is being rushed. Nothing is being forced. You might imagine the roots beneath you expanding just slightly, drawing in nutrients, storing energy, contributing to a system that does not depend on sudden change, but on steady accumulation. This is how abundance becomes reliable, not through intensity, but through continuity. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel less need to reach for something more, less need to add or adjust. The system is already functioning. The field is already sustaining itself. And you, in this moment, are already supported. There is nothing missing, only the quiet presence of processes that continue gently and consistently, without noise. There is a reason why perennial systems endure, and much of that reason lies in what remains when everything else fades. Above the ground, change is constant. Leaves emerge, mature, and fall. Stems grow, then wither. Flowers open and close within limited spans of time. But beneath the surface, there is a different kind of timeline, one that extends beyond visible cycles. Roots do not disappear when seasons change. They remain. In many perennial species, root systems can persist for years, even decades, gradually expanding, thickening, and reinforcing the structure of the soil around them. These roots are not static. They continue to grow, to interact with microorganisms, to exchange nutrients, and to respond to environmental conditions, even when the plant above appears inactive. This continuity provides stability. It anchors the system, allowing it to recover more quickly from disturbances, to resume growth without starting from nothing. And as you rest here, breathing slowly, you may begin to feel the significance of what remains. Take a gentle breath in and let it move through you without effort, and then release it, allowing your body to soften further. There may be parts of your experience that feel like change, thoughts that come and go, sensations that shift, moments that pass. But beneath those changes, there is also continuity. Your breath continues, your body continues. Processes unfold without interruption. You might imagine the roots beneath you, not as separate strands, but as a network that holds the entire field together, creating a foundation that does not depend on what is visible at any given moment. Even when the surface changes, the structure remains. This is what allows perennial systems to endure, not because they resist change, but because they are not defined by it. They carry forward what matters, while allowing everything else to shift. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same distinction within yourself between what changes and what remains. Your thoughts may drift, your awareness may shift, but your body continues its quiet work. Your breath moves in and out. Your system maintains itself. There is no need to hold on to every passing moment. No need to fix what is already moving. Like the field, you are supported by what remains and by structures that do not disappear when attention moves elsewhere. Take another slow breath in and let it go, longer this time, allowing your body to settle more deeply. The roots remain, the system continues, and you, resting here, are part of that same quiet persistence, held by processes that do not require effort, only time. There is a measurable difference between systems that rely on repetition and systems that rely on persistence. And this difference becomes clearer when examined through long-term agricultural and ecological studies that compare annual and perennial productivity over extended periods. Annual crops are designed for speed and uniformity, optimized for rapid growth, synchronized maturation, and efficient harvesting, but they often require significant external inputs to maintain yield, including fertilizers, irrigation, and repeated soil disturbance. Perennial systems, by contrast, invest more energy below ground, developing extensive root structures that support stability rather than speed. And while their initial establishment may take longer, their long-term efficiency often increases as the system matures. Research in agroecology has shown that perennial crops can reduce soil erosion by up to 90% compared to annual systems, largely due to their continuous root coverage, which stabilizes the soil and reduces runoff during rainfall events. In addition, these systems tend to improve soil organic matter over time, enhancing water retention and nutrient availability, which in turn reduces the need for external inputs. And as you rest here, breathing slowly, you may begin to sense the quiet significance of that kind of persistence. Take a gentle breath in, allowing it to expand naturally, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your body does not need to restart its rhythm, but continues it. Persistence is not about intensity. It is about continuity over time. The field does not produce everything at once. It maintains itself, and in doing so, it becomes more stable, more efficient, more resilient. You might imagine the roots beneath you deepening slightly, extending further into the soil, not rapidly, not dramatically, but steadily, reinforcing the structure that supports everything above. This process is slow, but it accumulates. And over time, that accumulation becomes strength. In your own body, something similar is happening now. As your breathing remains slow and steady, your nervous system continues to shift toward regulation, reducing unnecessary activation, allowing restorative processes to take place. This is not a sudden change, it is gradual. And that gradual shift is what makes it sustainable. Take another slow breath in and let it go, allowing your body to settle even more fully. There is no need to accelerate anything, no need to reach a particular state. The process is already underway. Like the field, your system is designed to continue to adjust, to maintain balance over time. And as you remain here, you may begin to feel a quiet trust in that process, a recognition that not all progress is visible, not all growth is immediate, and not all strength is loud. Some of it is built slowly, beneath the surface, through persistence that does not demand attention. There are limits to control, and these limits become more apparent when systems are allowed to operate beyond strict management, revealing patterns that are not imposed, but emerge naturally from interaction and adaptation. In highly controlled agricultural systems, variables are minimized to increase predictability. Fields are leveled, inputs are standardized, and outcomes are measured with precision. But this control comes with a cost, as it often reduces diversity and limits the system's ability to adapt to unexpected changes. Perennial systems, particularly those that are less managed, operate with a different kind of order, one that is not centralized but distributed, where stability arises from the relationships between organisms rather than from external regulation. In such systems, plants compete and cooperate simultaneously. Microorganisms interact in complex networks, and feedback loops maintain balance without the need for constant adjustment. This is sometimes described in ecological theory as self-regulation, where systems maintain equilibrium through internal processes rather than external control. And here, in this field, that self-regulation is present. There are no straight lines, no imposed structure, and yet everything functions. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move through your body without effort, and then release it, noticing how your breath does not require control to continue. Your body knows how to breathe. Your system knows how to regulate. Control, in many cases, is not what sustains life. It is what attempts to direct it. And when that direction is removed, when systems are allowed to operate more freely, something else emerges. Not chaos, but balance. You might imagine the field responding to subtle changes, a shift in temperature, a variation in moisture, a change in light, and adjusting accordingly, not through a single directive, but through countless small interactions. This is how complex systems maintain themselves, not through force, but through responsiveness. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel a similar release within yourself, a softening of the need to manage every sensation, every thought, every moment. There is no requirement to control your experience, no need to direct your breathing, no expectation to shape what is already unfolding. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to sink deeper into the support beneath you. The field does not control its growth. It responds to conditions. Your body does not control its restoration. It allows it. And in this space, you are experiencing what it feels like to be part of a system that does not require constant direction, only presence. Everything continues. Everything adjusts. And without effort, without control, you remain here, supported by processes that unfold naturally, steadily, and without interruption. There have been moments in history when carefully controlled systems stopped working, not gradually, but abruptly, when conditions shifted beyond what they were designed to handle. And in those moments, the difference between systems that must be restarted and systems that simply continue becomes very clear. In agricultural history, crop failures have often occurred when a single species, grown uniformly across large areas, encounters stress it cannot tolerate, whether from drought, disease, or temperature extremes. And because these systems rely on repetition, when one cycle fails, the entire structure is disrupted. But perennial systems respond differently. They do not depend on a single moment of success. They carry reserves. They persist through unfavorable conditions. And even when visible growth stops, the system itself does not collapse. Take a slow breath in, allowing your chest to rise gently, and then release it, longer, softer, feeling the steady continuation of your breathing. You may begin to notice that your body does not require perfect conditions to continue functioning. Your breath adjusts, your heart adjusts, your internal systems adapt, even when circumstances change. And beneath the surface of this field, the same principle applies. You might imagine a season of difficulty, It's where rain is limited, where the surface becomes dry, where growth above ground slows or pauses. In an annual system, this might mean failure, but here, the roots remain. They extend deeper, accessing water that has moved beyond the reach of shallow systems. They draw from stored energy. They conserve what they have, and they wait, not with urgency, not with stress, but with continuity. Scientific studies on perennial crops have shown that deeper root systems can access water reserves that annual crops cannot reach, providing a buffer during periods of drought. And this capacity allows them to maintain function even when surface conditions are unfavorable. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same quiet resilience within yourself, not as something you need to create, but as something that is already present. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to soften further. There is no need to respond to every change with effort. Some systems are designed to endure. Some processes continue even when conditions are not ideal. And in this moment, you are experiencing that continuity, a steady rhythm that does not depend on perfection, only on persistence. The field does not stop, the roots do not stop, and neither do you. There are certain plants that resist being fully integrated into controlled systems, not because they are weak or unproductive, but because they do not conform to the requirements of uniformity, predictability, and centralized management. These plants grow in ways that are difficult to standardize. Their shapes are irregular. Their timing is variable. Their growth patterns are influenced by local conditions rather than imposed schedules. And because of this, they are often considered inefficient within industrial frameworks. But from a biological perspective, these characteristics are not limitations. They are adaptations. Perennial tuber crops, for example, often produce clusters of underground storage structures that vary in size and shape, making them difficult to harvest mechanically. But this variability also allows them to spread, to persist, and to regenerate from even small fragments left behind in the soil. This is a form of resilience that does not depend on precision. It depends on continuity. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move gently through your body, and then release it, noticing how your breathing does not follow a rigid pattern, but adjusts naturally, a moment by moment. Your breath is not uniform, and yet it is effective. In the same way, these plants do not conform to strict systems of control, but they continue to grow, to spread, to return. In some cases, they are even described as invasive, not because they are harmful in all contexts, but because they succeed without requiring permission. They do not need to be replanted. They do not need to be managed closely. They continue. You might imagine one of these plants now, growing at the edge of a field, not within the organized rows, but just beyond them, extending slowly, sending out new shoots, establishing itself without being directed. It is not in a hurry. It is not competing aggressively. It is simply continuing. And over time, that continuation becomes presence. As you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel a similar release from the need to conform to rigid patterns, a sense that not everything needs to be perfectly structured to be effective. Your body does not require perfect symmetry to function. Your breath does not require exact timing to continue. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to settle more deeply. There is space here for variation, space for natural rhythm, space for processes that do not follow strict rules but still maintain balance. The plant continues, even without control. The field continues, even without uniformity. And you, in this moment, continue as well, breathing, resting, supported by systems that do not require perfection, only continuity. There's a form of energy that is not immediately visible, one that does not express itself in motion or intensity, but remains stored, stable, and available when needed. And in biological systems, this kind of energy is essential for continuity. In perennial plants, energy captured through photosynthesis is not used all at once. Instead, a significant portion is converted into storage compounds such as inulin or starch and held within underground structures where it remains protected from environmental fluctuations. This stored energy allows the plant to survive periods when sunlight is limited, when temperatures drop, or when conditions are otherwise unfavorable for growth. It is a strategy based not on constant activity, but on preparation. And here, in this field, that preparation is present everywhere, quietly held beneath the surface. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your body begins to settle even further. You may begin to feel a sense of stillness that is not empty but full, not inactive but prepared. In human physiology, energy is also stored, not just in immediate forms, but in longer-term reserves. And when the body enters a state of rest, it begins to shift how that energy is used, moving away from rapid expenditure and toward restoration. This is not something you need to direct. It happens naturally when conditions allow. And right now, as your breathing slows, those conditions are forming. You might imagine the roots beneath you holding energy gathered from sunlight long ago, preserved in complex forms that do not degrade quickly, remaining available for future growth. They do not release this energy all at once. They use it gradually, efficiently, in response to need. This is what allows the system to endure. Not constant input, but careful storage and measured release. As you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same quality within yourself, a sense that you do not need to expend everything at once, that there is value in conserving, in resting, in allowing energy to remain where it is. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to soften further into the support beneath you. There is no urgency here, no demand for output, only the quiet presence of energy that is not being used, but is still there, steady and reliable. The field holds it, the roots hold it, and you, in this moment, are holding it as well, resting within a system that does not require constant motion to remain alive. There is a moment, often subtle and easy to overlook, when a pattern becomes clear, not through analysis, but through repeated exposure, when something that once seemed unusual begins to feel natural. In this field, that moment arrives gently. You begin to recognize that the idea of planting once and harvesting for years is not an anomaly, but a reflection of how many natural systems operate when they are allowed to continue without interruption. The concept of restarting each cycle begins to feel less necessary. The idea of constant input begins to soften, and in its place, a quieter understanding emerges. That continuity can be enough. In ecological theory, this aligns with systems that maintain themselves through feedback loops, where outputs become inputs, where waste becomes resource, where energy flows in cycles rather than in linear sequences. These systems are not static. They change, they adapt, but they do not collapse between cycles. They carry forward. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move gently through your body, and then release it, noticing how your breathing no longer feels like something you are managing, but something that is simply happening. Your body has found a rhythm, not imposed, but natural. And as you rest here, you may begin to feel that rhythm extending beyond your breath into your entire experience. There is less urgency in your thoughts, less tension in your body, more space between each moment. You might imagine the field continuing through time, not as a series of separate events, but as a single, unfolding process where each season emerges from the one before it, carrying forward what has already been established. Nothing is lost. Nothing is wasted. Everything contributes. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same sense of continuity within yourself. A recognition that not every moment needs to be new. Not every cycle needs to begin from zero. Some things are allowed to continue. Some processes are allowed to unfold over time. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to settle even more deeply. There is nothing you need to add, nothing you need to change. Only the quiet understanding that systems, both in nature and within yourself, are capable of sustaining, of restoring, of continuing without constant effort. And in that understanding, there is a kind of calm, a soft clarity that does not demand attention, but remains present, steady and quiet, as everything continues in its own time. Beneath every system that endures, there is a foundation that is rarely seen but always essential. And in living landscapes, that foundation is the soil, not as an inert surface, but as a dynamic, structured environment that supports, regulates, and connects everything above it. Soil is not simply a mixture of minerals and organic matter. It is a living system composed of particles, pores, water, air, and an immense diversity of organisms, all interacting in ways that influence plant growth, nutrient availability, and long-term stability. In well-developed perennial systems, soil structure improves over time, as roots create channels that allow water to move more efficiently, as organic matter accumulates and binds particles together, and as microbial communities establish networks that support nutrient cycling. This process increases what scientists refer to as soil aggregation, where small particles cluster into stable units, improving both water retention and aeration, two factors that are critical for sustained plant health. And here, in this field, that structure is present. You may not see it directly, but you can imagine it. Layers of soil forming a stable matrix beneath you, holding moisture, supporting roots, and allowing life to continue without interruption. Take a slow breath in, allowing the air to move gently through your body, and then release it, longer and softer. noticing how your body settles more fully into the surface beneath you. You are supported not just by the ground you feel, but by everything within it. And as you rest, you may begin to sense that support more clearly. In physical terms, and the soil distributes weight evenly, preventing collapse, maintaining balance. In biological terms, it provides the medium through which nutrients and water are exchanged, sustaining life above. And in this moment, it holds you as well. There is no need to adjust your position, no need to hold tension. The support is already there. You might imagine the soil beneath you extending downward, layer upon layer, each one contributing to the stability of the whole, each one formed over time through processes that are slow, continuous, and cumulative. This is how foundations are built, not quickly, not all at once, but gradually, through accumulation and interaction. And as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same sense of foundation within yourself, a quiet stability that does not depend on constant effort, but exists as part of your system. Your body knows how to rest. Your breath knows how to continue. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your weight to sink slightly deeper. The soil holds everything. The system continues, and you, resting here, are supported by layers that do not need to be seen to be trusted. There is a pattern in living systems that repeats without restarting, a rhythm that moves forward by returning, where each cycle builds on the last rather than replacing it. In perennial plants, this rhythm is expressed through seasonal growth, emergence, expansion, decline, and return. But unlike annual systems, where each cycle begins from seed, perennial systems resume from established structures. This allows them to respond more quickly when conditions become favorable, as they do not need to rebuild what already exists. In ecological terms, this is a form of temporal efficiency, where time is not lost between cycles, but carried forward. And in this field, that rhythm is present. You might imagine the transition from winter to spring, not as a sudden change, but as a gradual shift. Temperatures rising slowly, light increasing, moisture returning. Beneath the surface, the roots respond. Metabolism increases. Energy begins to move. And without needing to start over, growth resumes. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your breath follows a similar pattern. It does not begin from nothing each time. It continues. Each inhale follows an exhale. Each exhale prepares for the next inhale. There is no reset, only return. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that rhythm extending beyond your breath into your entire experience. Your body does not need to restart its processes. It continues them. Your thoughts do not need to begin again. They shift, they move, they return. You might imagine the field moving through many seasons, each one leaving something behind: nutrients in the soil, energy in the roots, structure in the system, so that when the next cycle begins, it does so with more than it had before. This is how resilience builds, not through repetition, but through accumulation. And as you rest here, breathing slowly, you may begin to feel that same accumulation within yourself, each moment of stillness, adding to a deeper sense of calm, each breath contributing to a rhythm that does not need to be forced. In and take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to settle further. The rhythm continues, the system returns, and you, in this moment, are part of that same quiet cycle, moving forward not by starting over, but by continuing gently and steadily into the next breath. There are processes that only happen when nothing appears to be happening, and in both biological systems and human physiology, some of the most important forms of restoration occur during periods of stillness rather than activity. In perennial ecosystems, when visible growth slows or stops, especially during colder seasons or limited light, internal processes continue at reduced rates. Roots remain metabolically active. Microorganisms continue decomposing organic matter, and nutrients are gradually redistributed within the system. And this phase is not a pause in function, but a shift in function, from expansion to maintenance, from outward growth to inward restoration. And here, in this field, that restoration is ongoing. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move gently through your body, and then release it, longer and softer, noticing how your body settles further into stillness. You may begin to feel that your body is not inactive, but quietly engaged in processes that do not require your attention. In human physiology, rest activates systems responsible for repair, cellular maintenance, and energy conservation, including processes such as protein synthesis, immune regulation, and neural recalibration. These processes are not immediate. They unfold gradually, and they are most effective when not interrupted. You might imagine the field at night, when no sunlight reaches the surface, when the visible landscape becomes still, and yet beneath the soil, activity continues, slow, consistent, and essential. The roots do not stop functioning. The microorganisms do not stop processing. The system does not shut down. It restores. And as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same quiet restoration within yourself, not as something you need to initiate, but as something that is already happening. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to soften further, your muscles releasing any remaining tension. There is no need to accelerate this process, no need to measure it. Restoration is not something that responds to urgency. It responds to stability. And in this moment, you are providing that stability through stillness, through breath, through presence. The field restores itself. The system continues, and you, resting here, are part of that same quiet process, allowing what needs to be repaired, regulated, and balanced to unfold naturally, without interference. Depth is not always visible, and in many systems, the most important structures are the ones that extend beyond what can be easily observed. In perennial plants, root depth is a key factor in resilience, as deeper roots provide access to water and nutrients that are unavailable near the surface, especially during periods of drought or environmental stress. Studies in plant ecology have shown that some perennial root systems can extend several meters below the surface, creating pathways that allow water to infiltrate deeper into the soil and reducing surface runoff. These deep roots also contribute to long-term carbon storage, as organic material is deposited below the layers that are most affected by disturbance. And here, in this field, that depth is present. You may not see it, but you can imagine it. Roots extending downward, branching, spreading, forming structures that support everything above. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it, longer and softer, noticing how your body settles more deeply into the support beneath you. You might begin to feel a sense of depth within yourself as well, not as something physical, but as a quality of stillness, a sense that your experience is extending beyond the surface level of thought. In neuroscience, deeper states of relaxation are associated with slower brainwave activity, which corresponds to reduced external focus and increased internal awareness, a shift that allows for deeper restorative processes to occur. But you do not need to track these changes. You can simply feel the effect. Your body is heavier, your breath is slower, your awareness is quieter, and beneath all of that, there is a sense of depth, a steady presence that does not fluctuate with each passing thought. You might imagine the roots beneath you continuing to extend, slowly, steadily, not in response to urgency, but as part of their natural function. They do not rush. They do not force their way through the soil. They follow paths of least resistance, adjusting, adapting, continuing. And as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same gentle extension within yourself, not as movement, but as a deepening of stillness. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to sink further into that depth. There is no need to reach outward, no need to expand beyond this moment. Everything you need is already here, within the quiet depth of your breath, your body, and the steady support beneath you. The roots extend, the system stabilizes, and you, resting here, are held within that same quiet depth, supported by processes that continue far below the surface, steady, silent, and enduring. There are systems that are designed to produce quickly, and there are systems that are designed to endure, and the difference between them is not always visible at first, but becomes clear when observed over longer periods of time. In agriculture, annual crops are often measured by yield per season, by how much they produce within a defined window, but perennial systems are better understood through duration, through how long they continue to produce without needing to be restarted. Some perennial crops, once established, can remain productive for years, even decades, with minimal intervention. And this long-term continuity changes how time is experienced within the system. Time is no longer divided into separate beginnings and endings. It becomes continuous. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move gently through your body, and then release it, longer and softer, noticing how your breath does not reset, but flows from one cycle into the next. You may begin to feel that same continuity within yourself, a sense that this moment is not isolated, but connected to what came before and what will come after. In ecological studies, long-lived systems often show increased stability over time, as feedback loops become more refined, as relationships between organisms strengthen, and as the system becomes more efficient in using available resources. This is sometimes described as ecological succession, where systems mature, not by changing completely, but by deepening their structure and function. And here, in this field, that maturity is present. You might imagine the same field existing year after year, not identical, but consistent, adapting to changes responding to conditions, but always continuing. The roots grow deeper, the soil becomes richer, the system stabilizes, and as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel a similar sense of stability within yourself. Not as something fixed, but as something that develops over time, in through continuity rather than repetition. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to settle even more deeply. There is no need to rush through time, no need to reach the next moment. Everything is already unfolding. The field continues, the system endures, and you, in this moment, are part of that same quiet persistence, moving gently through time without needing to start over. There is a principle in both ecology and physiology that suggests systems function more efficiently when unnecessary effort is reduced, when processes are allowed to unfold without excessive interference. In perennial ecosystems, this is observed in the way energy is conserved and redistributed, rather than constantly expended on restarting growth cycles. The system maintains itself through continuity, reducing the need for repeated input. In human physiology, a similar principle applies as the body enters more efficient states of regulation when it is not under constant stress or activation, allowing restorative processes to take precedence. This is sometimes described as homeostasis, the ability of a system to maintain internal balance despite external changes. And here, in this field, that balance is present. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your body begins to release any remaining tension. You may begin to feel a subtle shift, not something dramatic, but a gradual letting go, a softening of effort that you may not have realized you are holding. Letting go in this context is not about losing control. It is about reducing what is unnecessary. The field does not force its growth. The roots do not push beyond what is needed. Everything unfolds according to conditions, without excess. You might imagine the soil beneath you adjusting naturally, holding moisture where it is needed, releasing it slowly, maintaining balance without force. And as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same natural regulation within yourself, your body adjusting, your breath finding its rhythm, your system settling without being directed. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your muscles to soften, your weight to settle more completely into the ground. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to control. Only the quiet process of allowing. In this state, your body becomes more efficient. Your breath becomes more natural. Your awareness becomes softer. And like the field, you begin to experience what it feels like to function without unnecessary effort, to continue without forcing, to rest without interruption. The system balances, the field sustains, and you, in this moment, are simply allowing everything to unfold as it is, steady, quiet, and complete. There is a difference between repetition and continuation, and although they may appear similar on the surface, they are fundamentally different processes when observed over time. Repetition implies restarting, a return to the beginning, a cycle that resets itself before moving forward again. But continuation is something else entirely. It is a flow that carries forward what already exists, building without interruption. In perennial systems, This distinction becomes clear as growth does not begin from zero each season, but resumes from established structures, roots, stored energy, and networks that persist beyond visible change. This creates a pattern that repeats but never truly ends. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move gently through your body, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your breath follows this same principle. Each inhale is not separate from the last exhale. Each cycle continues the one before it. There is no reset, only flow. And as you rest here, you may begin to feel that difference more clearly, a sense that your experience is not a series of isolated moments, but a continuous unfolding, where each breath carries forward the calm of the last. In ecological systems, this kind of continuity increases efficiency, as energy is not lost between cycles, but retained, redistributed, and reused. It is allowing the system to maintain stability with less effort over time. This is why perennial ecosystems often become more resilient as they mature, not because they change dramatically, but because they accumulate structure, memory, and balance. You might imagine the field continuing through many seasons, each one adding something small, organic matter in the soil, deeper root networks, more stable interactions between organisms, until the system becomes self-sustaining. Nothing needs to be restarted. Everything continues. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel that same sense of continuity within yourself, not needing to begin again, not needing to reset, but simply continuing, breath after breath, moment after moment. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to settle even more deeply. There is no need to interrupt this flow, no need to change it, only the quiet experience of continuation, steady and unbroken. There is a point where awareness begins to soften, where thoughts become less structured, less defined, and the boundary between observation and rest begins to dissolve. This transition is not abrupt. It happens gradually. In neuroscience, this shift is associated with the transition from wakefulness into early stages of sleep, where brain activity slows, sensory input becomes less dominant, and internal rhythms take precedence. You may already be approaching this state. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your breathing now requires almost no attention. Your body is heavier, your muscles are more relaxed. Your thoughts are slower, or perhaps more distant. This is not something you are doing. It is something that is happening. And here, in this field, everything reflects that same quiet transition. The light softens, the movement slows. The sounds, if there are any, become distant and indistinct. You might imagine the field at dusk as the day fades into evening, as the energy of growth gives way to the stillness of night. Nothing stops, but everything slows. This is a natural shift, a movement from activity into restoration. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel yourself drifting, not away from the field, but deeper into it, becoming less aware of boundaries, less focused on details. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to sink further into the surface beneath you. There is no need to stay fully alert, no need to follow every word. You can let your awareness soften, let your thoughts drift, Let your body rest. The field continues without your attention. The system maintains itself, and you are free to follow that same pattern, moving gently toward rest, toward stillness, toward sleep. Nothing is required. Nothing needs to be held. Only the quiet continuation of breath, of presence, of soft awareness fading into something deeper, slower, and more restful. There is a point where thoughts no longer need to be followed, where they begin to lose their structure, their urgency, and instead drift more like passing patterns than defined ideas. And this transition is a natural part of the movement towards sleep. In cognitive science, this phase is sometimes associated with hypnagogia, a state between wakefulness and sleep, where the brain begins to loosen its logical sequencing, allowing images, sensations, and fragments of thought to emerge without needing to connect them. And here, in this quiet field, that same softening is reflected in everything around you. Nothing is sharp. Nothing is demanding. Everything is gentle, diffuse, and unstructured. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move through you without effort, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your awareness no longer needs to hold on to each moment. You may find that thoughts appear, but do not stay. They pass through, like wind moving across the surface of the field. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to understand them. They can simply move. And beneath that movement, something else remains. A steady, quiet presence. The same presence that exists in the roots beneath the soil, continuing without interruption, without attention. You might imagine the field now in near darkness, the outlines of plants fading, the details becoming less distinct, until only the sense of space remains. The ground beneath you is still there, the roots are still there, but they no longer need to be seen. They continue regardless of perception. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel your own awareness following that same pattern, less focused on form, less attached to detail, more open, more diffuse. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to soften even further. There is no need to hold on to clear thoughts, no need to maintain structure, only the quiet experience of letting them dissolve, naturally, without effort. The field does not require clarity to continue. The system does not depend on attention, and you, in this moment, are free to let your mind soften, to let thoughts fade, to rest in the quiet space that remains when nothing needs to be followed. There is a sensation that comes as awareness continues to soften, a feeling of drifting, not in a direction, but downward, inward, into a space that is less defined, less connected to the surface of waking thought. This is not a movement you control. It happens gradually, as the body relaxes, as the breath slows, as the mind releases its need to organize. In this field, that movement can be imagined as a gentle sinking, not physically, but in awareness, as though you are moving closer to the layer beneath the surface and where everything continues quietly. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how your body feels heavier now, more settled, more supported. You might imagine yourself just at the boundary between the surface and the soil, not entering it, but resting at its edge, where the visible world fades and the unseen begins. This is where the roots are, This is where the quiet processes continue. No light, no movement, only steady, silent activity. In neuroscience, this stage corresponds to deeper transitions into sleep, where sensory awareness decreases and internal rhythms become dominant, guiding the body into restorative states without conscious direction. You do not need to follow this process. It is already happening. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel less connected to the surface of thought, less aware of your surroundings, more present in this quiet, internal space. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to sink further into stillness. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to stay aware of, only the gentle sensation of drifting, of moving deeper into rest, supported by processes that do not require your attention. The field continues beneath the surface. The roots remain active, and you, in this moment, are drifting into that same quiet layer where everything slows, everything softens, and everything continues without effort. There is a point where the body no longer needs guidance, where its systems begin to synchronize on their own, aligning breath, heart rate, and neural activity into a slower and more stable rhythm that does not require conscious attention. This state is not forced, it emerges. In physiology, this is often associated with increased parasympathetic activity, where the body shifts away from alertness and toward restoration, allowing processes such as tissue repair, immune regulation, and metabolic balance to take place more efficiently. And as you rest here, you may already be within that shift. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move gently through your body, and then release it, longer and softer, noticing how your breathing now feels automatic, steady, unforced. Your body is no longer adjusting, it is settling. The muscles release, the weight deepens, the rhythm stabilizes. You might imagine the field now completely still, not empty but calm, where every movement has slowed to the point of quiet continuity, where nothing draws attention, but everything continues. The roots beneath the soil maintain their steady processes. The system remains balanced, and you, within this space, are no longer observing the rhythm. You are part of it. Your breath moves without direction. Your body rests without effort. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your awareness to soften further, no longer needing to track each sensation. There is nothing to manage, nothing to adjust, only the quiet experience of being carried by a rhythm that continues on its own. There is a subtle boundary where structured awareness gives way to something more fluid, where thoughts no longer form complete sentences, where images begin to appear without context, and where the distinction between imagination and perception becomes less defined. And this is the edge of dreaming. In neuroscience, this transition is marked by changes in brainwave activity as slower patterns begin to dominate, reducing external awareness and allowing internal imagery to emerge more freely. You may already be approaching this state. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to fill your chest gently, and then release it, longer and softer, noticing how your thoughts no longer need to follow a clear path. They may appear briefly, then fade, replaced by something softer, less defined. You might imagine the field no longer as a detailed place, but as a feeling, a presence, a quiet sense of space that surrounds you without needing to be seen clearly. The boundaries dissolve, The details blur. Only the essence remains, the ground beneath you, the stillness around you, the slow, steady continuation of everything. And as you continue to breathe, slowly and evenly, you may begin to drift further from structured awareness, moving into a space where thoughts are no longer necessary, where perception becomes softer, more fluid. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your body to relax even more deeply. There is no need to stay fully aware, no need to follow every word. You can let your mind drift, let your awareness soften, let the field become less defined, less structured, more like a quiet background that continues without needing to be understood. The system remains, the rhythm continues, and you are gently moving beyond the edge of structured thought into a space where rest deepens, where awareness softens, and where sleep begins to take hold. There is a moment when awareness becomes lighter, when it no longer holds on to form, and when even the sense of following begins to dissolve into something softer, more distant, more fluid. This is not a loss. It is a transition. In sleep science, this stage reflects a deeper movement into theta-dominant brain activity, where external awareness fades and internal processes take precedence, guiding the body into restorative states without conscious direction. And here, in this quiet field, everything mirrors that same gentle fading. The shapes are no longer clear. The edges are no longer defined. The sense of space becomes soft, almost indistinguishable. Take a slow breath in, allowing it to move through you without effort, and then release it longer and softer, noticing how even the awareness of breathing begins to feel more distant. Your body is fully supported. Your muscles are completely relaxed. There is no need to track anything, no need to stay present in any structured way. You might imagine the field now as a quiet presence rather than a place, something that surrounds you without needing to be seen, something that continues without needing to be noticed. The roots remain, the system continues, but your awareness does not need to follow it anymore. It can soften, it can fade, and as you continue to breathe slowly and evenly, you may begin to feel yourself drifting further away from clear perception, moving into a space where thoughts no longer form, where sensations become minimal, where everything becomes lighter. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing your awareness to loosen even more. There is nothing to hold, nothing to follow. Only the quiet fading of attention into rest. And there is a depth beyond awareness, a place where the body continues, but the mind no longer needs to observe, where processes unfold without interruption, and where rest becomes complete. This is the threshold of deep sleep. In physiology, this stage is associated with slow-wave activity, where the brain enters its most restorative patterns, supporting memory consolidation, cellular repair, and energy regulation. But you do not need to think about any of that. You are already moving into it. Take a slow breath in, soft and effortless, and then release it, longer and heavier, noticing how your body now feels fully at rest, as though it is gently sinking into the surface beneath you. There is no separation between you and the field, no boundary to maintain, only a quiet merging of stillness. You might imagine the field continuing without you, not because you have left it, but because it does not require your awareness to exist. The roots remain, The soil holds, the system continues, and you are free to rest completely. Take another gentle breath in and let it go, allowing everything to soften further. Your body, your breath, your awareness, all moving towards stillness. There is nothing left to follow, nothing left to understand. Only the quiet continuation of processes that do not need you to observe them. The field continues, the system restores, and you drift deeper, beyond thought, beyond awareness, into a space where everything is quiet, everything is steady, and everything simply continues. There is a state where even the idea of resting disappears, where nothing is being observed, nothing is being followed, and yet everything continues in its own steady way. In this state, the body no longer needs direction. Breathing continues, circulation continues, restoration continues, all without awareness. This is not something you enter, it is something you allow. Take a slow breath in, or simply notice that breathing is already happening, and then let it go without following it, without holding onto the sensation. Your body is now fully supported. There is no tension left to release, no movement left to guide. Everything has settled into its natural rhythm. You might imagine the field far away now, or perhaps no longer a place at all, but a quiet sense of continuity that does not require images or thoughts. The roots remain, the soil remains, the system continues, and you no longer need to observe it. There is no need to stay aware, and no need to remain present. Only the quiet continuation of processes that do not depend on attention. And as this continues, awareness fades further, gently, completely, without effort. There is no longer a sense of movement, no sense of time, no sense of progression. Only a soft, undefined stillness where everything continues without needing to be noticed. In this state, the body is deeply at rest. The mind is no longer forming thoughts. Awareness is minimal or absent. This is where sleep deepens fully. Take a slow breath, or simply allow the next breath to come and go without noticing it. There is nothing to follow, nothing to return to, nothing to remain aware of. You might imagine nothing at all now, or perhaps just a faint sense of quiet, a background stillness that does not change, does not move, does not require anything. The field is no longer needed. The image is no longer needed. Only rest remains. And as everything continues, quietly, steadily, without interruption, you drift further into that rest, where awareness dissolves completely and the system continues on its own, silent, stable, and complete. There is a point where even the quietest awareness becomes unnecessary, where nothing needs to be noticed, nothing needs to be followed, and everything continues without any connection to observation. In this state, the body is fully at rest. Breathing continues on its own. The heart moves steadily. Internal systems regulate without interruption. There is no effort left, no direction, no need to remain aware. Take a slow breath, or simply allow the breath to happen without noticing it, and let everything soften completely. There is nothing to hold, nothing to guide, only the quiet continuation of life, steady and silent. You might imagine nothing now, or perhaps just a sense of stillness that does not change, a calm that does not move, a presence that requires nothing. The field, the roots, the soil, all continue, but you no longer need to see them, no longer need to imagine them. They remain without you, and you are free to rest completely. There is no movement here, no time, no structure, only stillness. In this depth, the body is in its most restorative state, where processes unfold slowly, efficiently, without interruption, supporting everything that will be needed when wakefulness returns. But that is not something you need to think about. There is nothing to think about, nothing to follow, nothing to understand, only stillness. Breathing continues, quietly, steadily, and without effort. And as this continues, awareness fades even further, dissolving into a space where nothing is required, nothing is present, and everything simply continues in silence. You are safe now. There is nothing to do, nothing to hold, nothing to return to. Only rest. Breath moving in, breath moving out. Soft, slow, fading. Drift away. Gently, without effort. Drift away. There is no ending here. Only continuation. Only stillness. Only quiet. Breathing continues. The body rests. The system restores. And you drift, softly, gently, into deep, uninterrupted sleep. You are safe. You can let go. Drift away. Drift away. Drift away. You are safe now. There's nothing left to follow. Nothing left to understand. Nothing left to hold. The story can continue without you. The field can continue without you. So the roots beneath the soil will keep growing quietly, steadily, without needing to be seen. Your breath is soft now, slow, natural, moving in and out, without effort. Each exhale becomes a little longer. Each inhale arrives more gently, and somewhere in between, your body continues to settle, deeper and deeper into rest. You do not need to stay with the words anymore. You can let them pass, like wind across a quiet field, like something distant, fading. Your body knows what to do from here. Your mind does not need to guide anything. Everything is already happening. You are safe, fully supported, with nothing required of you. Drift away, gently. Drift away. Let go of the last remaining tension. Let go of the need to stay awake. Let go of following any thought that appears. They can pass, one by one, without staying. Breathing in, soft, and out, slower. Drift away. Further now. Heavier, calmer, quieter. The field is still there, continuing, but you no longer need to be there with it. Everything continues, without you watching. Everything restores, without you noticing. And you can rest, deeply, completely. Drift away, drift away, drift away.